Bryce, look at yourself. You smell like copper wire and desperation. Do you honestly think I'd let you embarrass me at Mr. Reynolds' wedding? You're too poor to be seen with me at that level. Those were the words that shattered everything. My name is Bryce Davidson, and I'm about to tell you how the woman I loved showed me exactly who she really was. I stood there in our modest Lakewood apartment, still wearing my electrician uniform from the job site, holding a gold-embossed wedding invitation Amber had just waved in my face like a weapon. The fabric on our second-hand couch was worn thin from years of use. The hardwood floors creaked under my steel-toed boots. Everything about this place screamed struggle, sacrifice, survival. Amber, I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm your husband. She laughed, actually laughed. Her designer heels clicked against the floor as she circled me like I was something she'd stepped in. And you're too poor to understand what's at stake here. Mr. Reynolds personally invited me because I'm his top marketing director. Do you know what kind of people will be there? People who arrive in Range Rovers, Bryce. Not beat-up Ford pickup trucks that smell like electrical tape and broken dreams. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not break completely, not yet. But fracture like ice on a frozen lake when the temperature starts to rise. I'd spent 6 months pretending to be poor. 6 months testing her loyalty because my best friend Cole warned me she was a gold digger. 6 months hoping, praying, believing he was wrong. Maybe this will motivate you to actually make something of yourself, Amber continued, already taking selfies with the invitation. Her face transformed into that Instagram smile she practiced in the mirror when she thought I wasn't watching. I mean, honestly, how long are you going to pull wire through walls? I'm the breadwinner here, $85,000 a year, and I'm married to someone who can't even afford to take me to Ruth's Chris without a Groupon. I walked toward our bedroom without another word. My hands trembled as I closed the door. The sound of her voice, still talking, still justifying, still tearing me down, became muffled background noise. From my dresser drawer, beneath old Carhartt shirts and worn work socks, I pulled out a phone. Not the cheap Android I carried around daily. This one was sleek, expensive, the kind of device that cost more than 3 months of the rent Amber thought we struggled to pay. I dialed one number. Cole answered on the first ring. Move up the timeline, I said, my voice hollow. The wedding. That's when I'll reveal everything. Bryce, are you sure? Maybe she called me a disappointment. She said I smell like copper wire. She's embarrassed of me, Cole. You were right. You were right about everything. There was a long pause on the other end. Then I'm sorry, brother. I really am. I'll make the arrangements. I hung up and sat on the edge of our bed, staring at my reflection in the mirror across the room. The electrician stared back. Please, before I continue, kindly like, share, and subscribe for more interesting stories. 6 months earlier, I sat across from Cole in an upscale coffee shop in Cherry Creek, the kind of place where a single cup cost more than most construction workers made in an hour. Cole slid a manila folder across the marble table, his face grim, his jaw tight. He wasn't looking at me. That's how I knew whatever was inside would hurt. Bryce, I hired a private investigator, he said. You need to see this before you marry her. I pushed the folder back without opening it. Cole, I don't need to spy on the woman I love. Amber isn't like the others. She doesn't even know I have money. She thinks I'm a community college dropout working construction. That's exactly why you need to look. Cole's voice carried an edge I'd only heard a few times in the 26 years we'd known each other. Since we were 8 years old, sharing a bunk bed at the Second Chances homeless shelter, splitting a single sandwich between us because that's all the shelter could provide that day. He opened the folder himself, turned it toward me, and pointed to page 3. Printouts of text messages, screenshots of conversations. My stomach twisted. She told her friends, and I quote, "Once I confirm he's got family money, I'm golden. If not, I'll bail after the honeymoon. Nobody stays poor by choice." I stared at the words, read them again, then again. Amber's profile picture smiled up at me from the phone screenshot. That same smile she gave me every morning when she said she loved me. This could be fake, I said. But even I didn't believe it. Someone could have edited these. Cole pulled out another document, bank statements. She went to Tiffany & Co. 2 days after your first date, asked about engagement rings, specifically rings over $50,000. The sales associate remembered her because she asked if they had financing options, then laughed and said, "Just kidding, my boyfriend will pay cash." The coffee in front of me had gone cold. Outside the window, people walked by, living normal lives, having normal relationships, trusting the people they loved without needing private investigators and manila folders full of evidence. "What do you want me to do?" I asked quietly. "Don't marry her, or at least wait. Test her first." Cole leaned forward, his voice dropping. "Bryce, you built Mountain Ridge Construction from nothing. You're worth $280 million. Every woman you've dated since you made your first million has suddenly discovered that you're the one. But Amber doesn't know who you really are, so test her. Work as an electrician in your own projects. See if she loves you when you're poor." I looked at the folder again, at the evidence, at the woman I'd planned to spend my life with, captured in pixels and timestamps, calculating her future like a stock portfolio. 6 months, I said finally. "I'll give it 6 months. If she loves me through that, you're wrong. If you're right..." I couldn't finish the sentence. Cole nodded slowly. "And if I'm right, then you'll know before you destroy your life." 4 months before our wedding, I watched Amber through a security camera feed in my private office on the 20th floor of Mountain Ridge Construction headquarters. She sat in the HR department at Reynolds Marketing Group, dressed in clothes she'd probably borrowed, her resume trembling slightly in her hands. The timestamp on the screen read 2:20 p.m. Mrs. Diana Wells, my contact at Reynolds and one of the few people who knew my real identity, reviewed Amber's application with a practiced eye. I'd briefed her that morning. Hire the woman who comes in at 2:30, no matter her qualifications. "Miss Amber," Mrs. Wells said, her voice professional but not unkind. "I'll be frank with you. Your qualifications are minimal, no college degree. You were let go from your last position after 6 months. Your references are sparse." Through the camera, I watched Amber's face fall. Her hands gripped the armrest of the chair. "Please," she said, and I could hear the desperation, even through the tiny speaker. "I need this job. My landlord is threatening eviction. I'm 3 months behind on rent. I'll do anything. Filing, coffee runs, cleaning, I don't care. I just need a chance." Something in her voice made me lean closer to the screen. Was it real? The desperation? The vulnerability? Or was this part of the performance Cole warned me about? Mrs. Wells glanced at her computer screen, where I'd sent a message from a dummy admin account. "Hire her, marketing director track, starting salary $85,000. I watched Mrs. Wells's eyebrows rise slightly. She was too professional to question it, but I knew what she was thinking. $85,000 for someone with no degree and a spotty work history. It was insane. It was also a test. "You know what, Miss Amber?" Mrs. Wells said, her tone shifting. "We do have an opening, marketing director position. The position starts at $85,000 annually." Amber's mouth fell open. 85? Did you say 85,000? With benefits, health, dental, 401k matching. You'd start Monday. I watched Amber's face transform. Relief washed over her features, genuine and overwhelming. She pressed her hand to her chest like she was trying to keep her heart from bursting out. "Thank you. Thank you so much. You don't know what this means. I won't let you down." After she left, practically floating out of the office, Cole appeared in my doorway. He'd been watching from his own office across the hall. "You're paying her $85,000 a year to test if she's a gold digger," he said. "Bryce, do you realize how insane this sounds? If she loves me when I'm poor, none of this matters," I replied, still watching the empty chair on the screen where Amber had sat. "I'll tell her the truth, we'll laugh about it, and I'll know I can trust her forever." Cole walked to the window, his hands in his pockets. "And if she doesn't?" I didn't answer, couldn't answer because deep down, beneath all my hope and desperate love, I already knew what Cole's silence meant. He was afraid of what I'd have to find out. 2 months before our wedding, I took Amber to Giuseppe's, a small Italian restaurant on the west side, where the pasta was homemade but the tablecloths were plastic. I'd just gotten off my shift at one of our construction sites, still wearing my electrician uniform with the name tag that read Bryce. The smell of cable lubricant still clung to my clothes. Amber arrived 20 minutes late, checking her phone every few seconds. Her discomfort with the restaurant was obvious in the way she glanced around at the modest decor. No chandeliers here, no valet parking, just good food and honest people. "Sorry I'm late," she said, sliding into the booth. Traffic was insane. It wasn't. I'd tracked her phone, watching her sit in a Starbucks parking lot for 15 minutes, probably building up the courage to come inside. We ordered. She picked the cheapest item on the menu without me asking, which I noted. A small kindness or calculated performance. I couldn't tell anymore. Cole's warnings had poisoned my ability to see clearly. After dinner, after forced conversation about her new job at Reynolds Marketing, a job she praised endlessly without knowing I'd arranged it, I reached into my jacket pocket, my heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. The moment that would determine everything. "Amber," I said, pulling out a small velvet box. "I know I'm not rich. I know I can't give you the penthouse or the European vacations, but I love you, and I'm asking you to build a life with me anyway." I opened the box. Inside was my grandmother's ring, the one my grandfather gave her 3 days before he shipped out to Korea in 1950. My grandmother kept that ring through my grandfather's death, through poverty, through nights when we had nothing. Before she passed 2 years ago, she pressed it into my palm and whispered, "Give this to a woman who'd love you even if it came from a pawn shop." The ring was simple, small diamond, thin gold band. Maybe $600 if I bought it today. Nothing compared to the $50,000 rings Amber had priced at Tiffany. "Will you marry me?" Amber stared at the ring. I watched her face, searching for genuine emotion, for love, for anything real. But what I saw instead was calculation. Her eyes flickered, doing math I couldn't see. Her smile, when it came, took 3 seconds too long. "Yes," she said finally, her voice bright but hollow. "Yes, of course, I'll marry you." We kissed across the table. She tasted like wine and secrets. I kept my eyes closed because I couldn't bear to see her expression. But she kept hers open. I know because I felt her gaze wandering, looking past me toward the door, toward something that wasn't me. That night, I sat in my truck outside her apartment building, one I owned through a shell corporation, watching her window. The light was on. I could see her silhouette pacing, phone pressed to her ear. I'd installed monitoring software on her phone weeks ago. Another invasion I justified as protection. The audio feed crackled through my earpiece. "Brooke, the ring is tragic." Amber's voice came through sharp and dismissive. But I said yes. "Look, worst case scenario, I keep the $85,000 job, save aggressively for 3, maybe 4 years, then upgrade husbands. Best case, he's got family money he hasn't mentioned. His friend Cole drives a Tesla. You don't have friends with Teslas if you're actually broke." Her friend Brooke laughed. "Girl, you're playing chess while he's playing checkers. He's sweet, I'll give him that. And he's not bad looking. But Brooke, I didn't claw my way out of poverty to stay in plastic tablecloth restaurants forever. This is a stepping stone. He's a stepping stone." I sat in that truck for 2 hours after the call ended, the ring box receipt crumpled in my fist, my grandmother's voice echoing in my memory. "If they stay for the wrong reasons, you have to love them enough to let them go and hope they find their way back as better people." I started the engine, drove to my real home, the penthouse Amber didn't know existed, and began planning the wedding she didn't know would destroy everything. 1 month into our marriage, I came home with groceries, budget brands, items bought with coupons I'd clipped that morning from the Denver Post. It was all performance now, all test, all waiting to see how far she'd go. The apartment smelled like expensive perfume. Amber's friends were there, 3 women draped across our second-hand furniture like it offended them by existing. "Amber, is that your husband?" one of them said, her voice dripping with amusement. Brooke, the one who'd laughed on the phone about chess and checkers. Amber didn't look up from her phone. "Unfortunately, Bryce, we have guests. Could you not be here?" I set the grocery bags on the kitchen counter, each item a careful choice. Store brand bread, generic cereal, the cheapest coffee. "I live here." "Amber, in designer clothes, this apartment would be quaint," another friend chimed in, examining her manicured nails. "In his electrician uniform, it's just depressing." The third woman, Julia, wrinkled her nose. "Does he always smell like electrical work?" Amber finally looked at me, and what I saw in her eyes wasn't love or even mild affection. It was contempt, pure, undisguised contempt. "He's saving money for our future," she said, adding air quotes with her fingers. "Meanwhile, I'm the breadwinner, $85,000 a year, and I'm married to someone who considers Applebee's a splurge." My hands trembled as I unpacked milk into the refrigerator. I'd bought the cheapest brand, the one that expired in 3 days. Another small detail of poverty I'd researched and performed. "I'll be in the bedroom," I said quietly. "Take a shower first," Amber called after me. "You smell like wire nuts and failure." Her friends erupted in laughter. I closed the bedroom door, their cackling muffled but still audible through the thin walls. I sat on the edge of our bed, the mattress we'd picked out together at a discount furniture warehouse, and pulled out my real phone. I opened the text chain with Cole, scrolled up through months of messages, each one documenting another small cruelty, another calculated dismissal. Cole had been collecting evidence, not to prove me wrong anymore, but to build a case for what he knew I'd eventually need: divorce proceedings. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, then I typed, "You were right. Initiate Operation Revelation. The wedding. That's when I'll reveal everything." 3 dots appeared immediately. Cole was always watching, always waiting for this moment he knew would come. "The invitations went out today," his reply read. "Mr. Reynolds' wedding. Your name is listed as Bryce Davidson, CEO and owner, Mountain Ridge Construction, guest of honor. She'll find out who you are in front of 400 people. Are you absolutely sure?" I looked at the closed door. I could still hear Amber's voice, entertaining her friends with stories about my inadequacies, my poverty, my failure to provide the life she deserved. "I'm sure," I typed back. "The security team is briefed. The helicopter is detailed. Your custom suit is ready." "Bryce, this is going to destroy her publicly. Are you prepared for that?" Was I? I'd spent 6 months hoping Cole was wrong. 6 months pretending to be poor while running a $280 million empire from the shadows. 6 months watching the woman I loved reveal herself to be exactly what Cole warned me about. "She destroyed me privately first," I replied. "Turnabout is fair play." I deleted the text thread, a habit I'd developed to avoid Amber's snooping. She'd gone through my cheap phone twice that I knew of, looking for evidence of infidelity or hidden money. She'd found neither because there was nothing to find on that device. From the living room, I heard Amber's voice rise in pitch. "Honestly, I give it 6 more months before I file for divorce. He has no money, so it'll be quick. Then I can actually start living." I opened my dresser drawer, pulled out my wedding ring, and set it on the nightstand. The gold caught the afternoon light streaming through our window. Tomorrow, I'd put it back on. Play the role for 5 more days until the wedding. But in my heart, the marriage was already over. 5 days later, Amber came home with the gold-embossed invitation, the one that started everything. But this time, I watched her carefully, noticed things I'd missed in my hurt and anger, how she paused in the hallway before entering, practicing her expression in the small mirror by the door, how she hid the invitation behind her back when I first walked in, then remembered it with theatrical surprise. "Bryce, sweetheart," she said, her voice sugary in a way that made my skin crawl. She never called me sweetheart unless she wanted something. "I need to talk to you about something important." I stood in the kitchen, still in my electrician uniform, playing the part I'd perfected over 6 months. "What's wrong?" She placed the invitation on the counter between us like evidence in a trial. "Mr. Reynolds' wedding is Saturday. It's incredibly exclusive. Security will be checking the guest list against IDs and, well, you're not on it." "The invitation says, 'and guest,'" I pointed out, keeping my voice neutral. "That's just a formality, honey." The endearment sounded like poison. "This is important for my career. I've worked so hard to get into this circle. These are millionaires, Bryce. CEOs, people who matter. If I show up with someone in a rental tuxedo who doesn't know which fork to use..." "I know which fork to use, Amber." She laughed. Actually laughed like I'd told a joke. "Do you? When's the last time you ate somewhere with more than one fork, Bryce? I'm trying to protect both of us. You'd be uncomfortable around all those wealthy people anyway. Stay home, order pizza, watch the game. I'll tell you all about it when I get back." Something in me went quiet. Not angry, not hurt anymore, just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes when you finally accept the truth you've been running from. I walked toward the door without responding. "Where are you going?" Amber called, annoyance creeping into her voice. "I need some air." "Typical," she shouted as I reached for the doorknob. "Run away when things get real. This is why you're stuck as an electrician, Bryce. No ambition, no drive, just excuses and weakness." I paused, my hand on the knob, and turned back to look at her one last time as the man she thought I was. She stood in our kitchen, designer dress, expensive heels, hairstyle perfectly, all funded by money I'd given her through the job she didn't know I'd created specifically for this test. "You're right," I said quietly. "I should have ambition. I should have drive. Thank you for the reminder." I left, closing the door gently behind me. I heard her sigh of relief. Heard her immediately call Brooke. Crisis averted. That loser won't embarrass me at the wedding. I walked down the stairs of the apartment building I'd owned, past the lobby I'd kept modest intentionally, out to the parking garage where my beat-up Ford F-150 sat in its regular spot. But I didn't go to the F-150. Instead, I walked to the far corner to a covered vehicle marked Reserved Owner. That's the stagiaires, or owner. I pulled off the canvas cover, revealing a custom Ford F-150 Raptor, midnight black with Mountain Ridge construction logos, worth more than most people's houses. The paint gleamed under the fluorescent lights. I ran my hand along the hood, feeling the cool metal, the solid weight of my real life. My real phone buzzed. "Cole, security team is ready. Helicopter is fueled. Your entrance will be one for the history books. Last chance to back out, brother." I looked back at the building, at the window of the apartment where Amber was probably already planning her outfit for the wedding, already imagining networking with millionaires, already forgetting I existed. "No backing out," I typed. It's time she met the real Bryce Davidson. The Aspen Mountain Resort was magnificent. I'd chosen the venue myself, approved the $50,000 floral arrangements, paid for the ice sculptures, and the champagne fountain, and the string quartet that played near the koi pond. Mr. Reynolds, my client, and the groom had nearly cried when I offered to cover the entire wedding as a gift. He didn't know I had ulterior motives. Through the security feed on my tablet, sitting in a private preparation room in the resort's east wing, I watched Amber arrive. She'd spent her last paycheck on that dress, a shimmering gold number that probably cost $3,000, money she wouldn't have had without the job I'd given her. Brooke and Julia flanked her, all of them dressed like they belonged in a magazine spread. They accepted champagne from passing waiters, posed for photos against the backdrop of manicured gardens and imported Italian marble fountains. "Amber, you look incredible," Brooke gushed, her voice carrying across the lawn. "Wait, where's Bryce?" I leaned closer to the screen, watching Amber's face transform. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. Amber sipped her champagne, smiled wickedly, and said loud enough for nearby guests to hear, "That loser is probably at home in his underwear eating ramen noodles. I told him he wasn't invited. Honestly, I feel free, like I can finally breathe without the weight of his mediocrity dragging me down." "You didn't," Julia gasped, but she was laughing. "I absolutely did. After today, after Mr. Reynolds sees how well I fit into this world, I'm filing for divorce. Half of nothing is still nothing, but at least I'll be free to find a real man." They laughed louder. Other guests were staring now, some uncomfortable with her volume, others merely curious. Cole entered my preparation room. "The helicopter just landed. Security team is in position. Your entrance in 5 minutes." He paused. "Last chance, Bryce." I stood, adjusting my $15,000 custom suit in the mirror. The transformation was complete. No more electrician uniform, no more pretending. Just Bryce Davidson, CEO, owner. The man Amber never bothered to truly know. "She just told 400 people I'm eating ramen in my underwear," I said, checking my watch, a Rolex Submariner worth more than her annual salary. "Let's show her what I'm actually doing." The sound hit first, helicopter blades cutting through the afternoon air. Amber paused mid-selfie, confusion crossing her face. "Is that a helicopter?" Brooke asked. Outside, my helicopter touched down on the resort's helipad. But that wasn't the main event. Rolling up the circular driveway came the procession. 3 black Escalades, 1 custom Raptor convoy with Mountain Ridge Construction, B. Davidson, CEO on the license plates, 2 police motorcycle escorts. The entire wedding froze. 400 guests rushed to windows and balconies. "Who arrives at a wedding like this?" Amber laughed nervously. "How tacky." The lead Escalade door opened. I stepped out. 6 bodyguards immediately flanked me. My custom suit was perfection. My Rolex caught the sunlight. "Amber!" Brooke grabbed her friend's arm, phone falling. Amber, that's... It took Amber 3 seconds to process. Her champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on marble. No one noticed except Brooke. I walked toward the resort with the confidence of someone who owned the ground beneath his feet. The crowd parted like water. Whispers exploded around me. Then Mr. Reynolds appeared, rushing down the resort steps. Not walking casually, running. When he reached me, he nearly bowed. "Mr. Davidson, sir, we're honored you could attend. Please, the entire event is at your disposal." The crowd gasped. The whispers became a roar. "That's Bryce Davidson, the CEO of Mountain Ridge Construction. He built this entire resort. He's worth over $200 million. I scanned the crowd deliberately, found Amber standing frozen, face drained of color. Our eyes met for exactly 3 seconds. I saw recognition, shock, horror. Then I looked away, dismissing her like she was no one. "Let's not keep your bride waiting," I told Mr. Reynolds. Behind me, I heard Amber's voice, barely a whisper. No, that's impossible." During the ceremony, Amber's phone buzzed. Email from Reynolds Marketing Group HR. "Termination notice, effective immediately. Your position has been terminated due to conflict of interest. B. Davidson, Mountain Ridge Construction." Amber's knees buckled. "I'm fired. He owns the company that contracts with Reynolds Marketing. It was all connected." At the reception, Mr. Reynolds took the microphone. "Everyone, I want to thank my greatest mentor, the man who took a chance on me 10 years ago when I was bankrupt and broken, who paid for my business degree, gave me my first contract, and believed I could build something great. My friend, my inspiration, Bryce Davidson." Applause erupted. I waved politely but didn't approach the microphone. Amber tried pushing through the crowd toward me. A bodyguard stepped in front of her. "That's my husband," she said desperately. The bodyguard touched his earpiece, then looked at her coldly. "Mr. Davidson doesn't wish to speak with you." Then I approached, not with anger, but something worse. Pity. "We need to talk," I said quietly, privately. In Mr. Reynolds' private study, Amber collapsed into a leather chair, mascara running. "Why would you lie to me?" she sobbed. "I didn't lie. You never asked. You assumed. I worked as an electrician because I started as one at 16. I pulled wire to pay for community college. When I built this company, I never forgot where I came from. So yes, sometimes I still work with my hands. You tested me. Yes. My best friend warned me you were calculating my worth before our first kiss. I didn't believe him. I loved you. You loved what you thought I could become. When I was just Bryce the electrician, you called me a loser. You said I was too poor to stand beside you. I was protecting my career, your career that I gave you, the $85,000 salary, I authorized it. Everything you have came from the man you called too poor to be seen with." Amber fell to her knees. "Please, I'll change. I didn't know." "That's the problem. You didn't know, so you showed me who you really are." I pulled out divorce papers. "You'll get $75,000. The apartment is yours for 6 months. But Amber, learn from this." She grabbed my legs, sobbing. "I'll do anything, please." I looked down at her, and my resolve wavered. "There's one thing you can do." 3 days later, Amber sat in my office, looking small in the large leather chair. "I should hate you," I said quietly, "but I can't." I slid a document across the desk. "A post-nuptial agreement. If we divorce in the next 5 years, you get $100,000. But if you're only here for money, take the $75,000 now." Amber stared at the paper. "I don't want the money. I want to earn back your trust. Tell me how." "You'll work at the Denver Rescue Mission, where my grandmother and I lived. Learn what it's like to serve people who have nothing. If I see genuine change, we stay married." "How long?" "As long as it takes." Amber signed the agreement. "I'll prove you didn't waste 6 months on me." 2 years passed. Amber worked at the shelter, volunteered, changed. Then one day she handed me a handwritten letter. "Dear Bryce, you asked me once if I knew which fork to use. I do, but I forgot something more important. How to use my heart. I'm learning again, slowly. I don't know if we'll make it, but I know I'm becoming someone I can respect, and maybe someday someone you could love again." Cole appeared beside me. "You going to forgive her?" I folded the letter carefully. "I already did. The question is whether she'll forgive herself." My phone buzzed. A text from Amber. "Dinner tonight? I'll cook spaghetti with this cheap sauce you used to buy, if you'll have me." I smiled, typing back. "I'll bring the generic garlic bread." 3 years later, Amber and I renewed our vows in that same Italian restaurant where I'd proposed. This time, she wore the ring differently, not as a burden, but as a reminder. Sometimes the hardest test isn't of loyalty, it's of character. And sometimes failing is the first step to becoming who you were meant to be.